So I was thinking, what story should I tell? And then I had an idea. I'm gonna tell the story of the three little pigs and the big bad wolf. So a long time ago, there were three little pigs: Dopey, Lazy, and Steve. And Dopey and Lazy and Steve, well, they had done their time growing in their parents' house, and now it was time for them to go out and see the world. So Dopey, Lazy, and Steve headed out, and they, excuse me, they needed to build their own homes. So Dopey, classic Dopey, he's walking around and he not really sure what kind of a house he wants to make, so he starts pulling at the grass because he thinks that pulling grass is helpful to thinking. And he's pulling the grass and he's pulling the grass, and then he figures out, why don't I just pile the grass into a big old hole and then push out a little bit and then sleep in it? It'd be a great house. That is such a great idea. I like it. So he goes through and he piles a bunch of grass and makes a huge pile, and then he pushes some of the grass out of the way, and he goes, what an awesome house, and so he wiggles in it, and he's so happy with himself. It took 20 minutes to build this house, and he's just so ecstatic. So he decides he's going to celebrate by hanging out in the local bog. And he goes over to the bog and he's swimming, and he sees somebody looking at him. He's not quite sure who it is. Hello, little pig. This is a person. And he's a little nervous, and he says, hello, Mr. Wolf. Little pig, I have something I'd like to offer you. And, well, he thinks about it. What do you want to offer me? Well, little pig, I'd like to eat you for dinner. And little pig goes, oh no! And little pig runs into his grass house. He's looking around, he's like, oh, this grass will protect me. And the wolf knocks on the grass. Kuss, 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 kuss. Little pig, let me into your grassy hill. It's a home! Let me into your grassy home. Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Well, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he went huff and he puffed and he blew the house in. And all that grass went whoosh. And the little pig went, oh no! And he ran and ran and ran. Well, meanwhile, his brother Lazy was walking around through a forest and leaning against trees because he likes to kick back and relax. And you know how things are, partner, when you're out and you've had a rough day and you need to settle down. So he was leaning against a tree, and then, let me get my hat back on. There we go. It fell a little off. There we go. Much better, huh? So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the tree he was leaning against. Just put his hand up there. There we go. Put his hand there, and then all of a sudden, and he fell, and his head flew all over the place, and he lost it. And he didn't know where it was, and anyway, so there's a branch in the ground, and he's like, man, I thought that branch was so strong. I'll bet if I get a bunch of those branches together, they'll be really strong. And then I bet if I get a bunch of those branches, I can make myself a house. Yes, I am such a smart guy. Now, if only I could figure out what I did with my hat. So he starts looking to see what kind of branches he has, and he starts making a wall, and he starts tying it real quick, and then he does some other stuff, and there's another wall, and he puts a roof on it and a door, and voila! It took 2 hours to build this house, and he was so excited about it. And just then his brother Dopey comes running through the woods. Whoa! There's a wolf after me! Whoa! So he runs. So Lazy's like, yeah, but look at my house, isn't it great? Let's go inside. So they go inside. There's a dirt floor and there's wood walls and it's just one room and there's no couch and nothing. But Lazy's so excited by what he's done, he decides that they need to celebrate by going in the local bog. So by now, Dopey's forgotten all about the wolf that chased him. And so the two go into the bog, and then they see a familiar face, and the face says, little pigs, how are you today?" And little pigs go, "Oh no!" And they run into the house, and they're in the house, and they close the door, and the wolf is walking around outside. Little pig, let me in," he says. And the little pigs say, "Not by the hairs of our chinny chin chin." And then the wolf sneers, "Well, then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." And little pigs shiver with fear. And that wolf huffs and he puffs and he blows the house in. Branches are going everywhere, and those pigs, they run away, and they're all afraid and they're scared, and they run to their brother's Steve's house. Steve, you gotta let us in. Steve. You see, Steve spent this whole time building a house out of bricks because he knows that since they live in Kansas, and Kansas is part of Tornado Alley, Tornado Street, Tornado Boulevard, Tornado something. Anyway, tornadoes come and they whoosh, whoosh. So Steve's been building this house out of bricks. So he's got a really nice house, and Lazy and Dopey and Curly, I don't know who Curly is, but that's beside the point. So they come and they visit, and they really like Steve's house, and they want to tour the inside of Steve's house. And they walk in, and it looks kind of small and quaint on the outside, but it's got a couple bedrooms, and it's got a game room, and it's got an indoor pool, and it's got a coffee bar, and it's got a beer bar, and it's got a garage, and it's got a shop, and then they hear, and the pigs wonder to themselves, well, who could that be? And then they hear, little pig, let me in. And little pigs say, not by the hairs of our chinny chin chin. And then that wolf says, well, then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in. And little pigs start to tremble, and then they hear that wolf. He starts to huff and puff and huff and puff and huff and puff. Man, that wolf, he just can't blow the house in. And then Steve, he says something kind of, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Steve says, boy, I hope that wolf doesn't come down the chimney. And the other three pigs, or there are four now. I think there's five. Anyway, they start to worry, no, don't tell me come down the chimney. And the wolf, who had been sitting outside the window trying to figure out how he was going to get those little piggies, heard, I hope he doesn't come down the chimney. So the wolf climbs up the side of the house, and he climbs up onto the roof and into the chimney. But see, Steve's a hungry pig after working all that, and he had put on a pot of boiling water to make stew. Splash! And the wolf falls into this pot of boiling water. How Steve got a pot of boiling water on the stove as opposed to putting a pot of cold water on the stove and boiling it, I'm not sure, but let's get back to the story. So wolf splash, and the wolf, oh "Oh!" And he starts scurrying up the chimney. "Oh!" And all the pigs give a high five. Yay! Well, you can tell it's my hand. Anyway, you get the point. So they all high five each other, and they never see that wolf again. So, moral of the story is, when your parents send you out, build your house made of bricks, include a chimney, and always have a pot of boiling water under the chimney. I love you, and good night.